In October 1975, a 22-year-old man named Brian Robson from Cardiff, Wales, found himself stranded in Australia, broke, homesick, and desperate to get back home. He had moved there through a government-assisted migration program, dreaming of adventure and opportunity. But what he found was disappointment, loneliness, and a job he hated. He wanted out. But with only $40 in his pocket, he couldn't afford a plane ticket home. Most people would have given up. But not Brian. He came up with one of the most ridiculous, dangerous, and downright unbelievable plans ever attempted. He decided to mail himself home. Brian built a small wooden crate, just big enough to fit his body, 30 by 27 by 36 inches. About the size of a mini fridge. On the side he marked, "With care, this side up." Naturally, the label ended up upside down. Inside the box he packed 2 pillows, a flashlight, 1 bottle of water, 1 bottle for, well, not water, and a Beatles cassette tape to keep himself sane. Then, with the help of 2 Irish friends, he climbed inside. His friends nailed the lid shut, loaded the crate into a van, and drove it to Melbourne Airport, where they handed it over to Qantas Cargo. The plan was simple: ship the crate to London, and after about 36 hours, Brian would step out of the box, stretch his legs, and be home. But reality had other plans. Instead of being sent to London, the crate was accidentally loaded onto a Qantas flight to Los Angeles. Brian had no idea. Inside that dark, airless box, the temperature climbed to 35 degrees Celsius. He was drenched in sweat, gasping for air. His flashlight died. The Beatles stopped playing. He was surrounded by darkness, heat, and the sound of his own heartbeat. Hours passed, then more hours. Brian started to panic. He banged on the wooden walls with his fists, hoping someone, anyone, would hear him. After more than a day trapped inside, the plane finally landed, not in England but in Los Angeles, USA. Customs officials unloading the cargo heard faint banging from one of the crates. They drilled a small hole, shone a flashlight inside, and saw something no one could have expected. A pale, blinking young man staring back at them, upside down. The FBI was called immediately. When they opened the crate, Brian looked up and, in his calm Welsh accent, said, "I'm Brian Robson from Cardiff. Can I have a cup of tea?" He'd been in the crate for nearly 2 full days. The U.S. Immigration Service didn't know what to do with him. Technically, he had entered the country illegally, as cargo. But when Qantas realized what had happened, they were horrified. They didn't press charges. Instead, they offered to make it right. They flew Brian back to the UK first class, free of charge. After all, he'd already experienced the worst kind of economy class imaginable. When he finally stepped off the plane, he had spent 64 hours inside that wooden box, more than 2.5 days upside down, cramped, dehydrated, and lucky to be alive. And yes, the story is completely real. The Melbourne Age newspaper ran it on the front page. Qantas Cargo records list 1X crate, human occupant. And in 1976, Brian appeared on Australian television holding the actual crate, which now sits in the National Museum of Australia. Decades later, in 2021, at the age of 68, Brian tracked down the 2 friends who helped nail him in. They laughed about it over tea. And Netflix even announced plans to make a movie about his unbelievable journey. So the next time you think your Monday is bad, remember Brian Robson, the man who spent 3 days upside down in a box over the Pacific Ocean and still got home in time for tea. Unbelievable. But true.